Hi, Miguel. How are you doing?
Doing good, Lucas. Thanks. Thanks for having me. It's good to see you. I've just noticed that we're going to be talking about color and we're both in black and white. So I'm sure we're going to have a lot to talk about today to fill us up with color.
Absolutely, we will. Thank you so much for joining us then. And to begin, let's talk about colors. As you say, what color could define your mood in this moment?
Green.
Green.
Yeah, I would say green. I would say a dark green. A dark green.
Yeah. Perfect. And what memory does this color trigger for you?
Earth, like nature, deep nature. I think we're going through a time where we need to go back to basics. So nature.
Absolutely. And your passion in life or your passions?
To answer that, it's important to understand that there's several parts of me which I like to not mix.
Okay.
A lot of people tend to mix their characters, you know, so I have my private life, my professional life, I have a business in life, and then I have one, you know, one for my friends and family. And I try and, you know, otherwise they tend to mix. And in my regards, they're all quite different. So my passion in dentistry, I guess is, I like to call advanced biological comprehensive dentistry. And it's a new way of thinking, going as natural as possible, organic as biological, focusing on the patient's immune system, as well as delivering perfect smiles. So it's very advanced thinking, a lot of technology. Very passionate about that. I do documentaries and all of that around that, which is fun, and lecture a lot. My passion in my personal life is, of course, my daughters and my wife, and I try and keep that as private as possible. And in my, I guess, public life is just understanding right now how to help people not go crazy.
Absolutely. I love how you segmented the different part and different passions depending on the part of your life.
Yeah, it's like, you know, people tend to be very generic about things. I think language is very, very important, and I like people to be very specific. You know, it's like, what's your favorite song? You have to say, what am I doing? Who am I with? You know, how old am I? What era are we in? What am I wearing? What am I drinking? Then I'll tell you what song I like. You know, you have to be very specific about things.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you talked about dentistry, your professional life. Tell me more. What is your field of expertise and what do you do in life?
All right. Well, I'm the founder of the White Clinic, which has been operating for 20 years in Lisbon, Portugal. And the last 20 years, I've tried a lot of things with my practice. I've only ever worked in one at a time. So the current version is the third purposely built clinic. And very fortunate to have clients fly in from all over the world looking for our expertise. And what we're doing now, so again, the clinic that we were in 2005 wasn't what we were in 2010, 2015, even as far back as 2018, as close behind as 2018, we've changed. The reason being is that I lecture a lot. So I've given over 250 keynote lectures in over 55 countries and 4 languages. And the reason I do that is because not only am I sharing knowledge, but I'm also receiving a lot of information.
Absolutely.
I was the keynote speaker at the American Dental Association in San Francisco last September, also in Chicago in February, days before the lockdown. So I'm on stage with some of the biggest thought leaders in my profession. And, you know, after all of these years, companies start wanting to work with you. So we have an overwhelming amount of technology in the clinic that would, let's say, you wouldn't find easily, if not to say you just wouldn't find in a private practice, let alone one in Portugal, because people usually don't think Portugal, this should be in New York, this should be in LA, this should be in, you know, so I have lived in LA and I've spent a lot of time in New York. I've even tried opening a practice in Dubai and looking into London and all of that. And the truth is that Portugal right now it's a hot place, you know, not temperature wise. Everybody wants to come here. It's such an amazing country. So I guess I just had to be patient and focus on all of this methodology. So what we're doing is combining advanced technology with very, very a very strong biological principle. And the kind of patients that come to us have catastrophic failure of their old dentistry. And this is leading to immune problems, psychological problems, health issues, systemic issues. And my job and my team's job is to build beautiful smiles in a short amount of time. But while we're doing that, doing the detox, so taking all of that toxic infection, chronic infection out of their mouths, and we're seeing how that correlates to their brain, to their energy levels. I mean, it's incredible. It's a fantastic time for us and we're loving it. And there's very little people talking about that because there's very few people that have made the jump and, you know, from fixing single teeth to the whole ecosystem. And we're very proud of the work we're developing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Mind and body, and trying to correlate them and bring to a...
Yeah, but you know, it's, if you think about holistic dentistry, we're not talking just about metal-free or mercury-free. We're at, you know, that's for a person who's got okay teeth. We're at a level now where the patients that come to us have spent tens of thousands, in some cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars or euros on their mouths over the last 30 years. They're in between the ages of 50 and 75. And, you know, they have, let's say they have some disposable income. And what they're looking at is like, I want to live forever. I want to be, you know, what's the next level? And I don't want to make the same mistakes of the past. And since my profession has been evolving so much, we're literally at the tip of the iceberg. And we use the mycoocoon as a part of that journey.
I know, and we love that. We love to be a part of your project and of your process. That's awesome. And so we've been living a pretty particular time. How have you personally been going through it?
I'm very fortunate to have a loving wife and two kids that are, you know, my youngest daughter just turned 3. My oldest just turned 3 years old, and the youngest one is only 4 months old. So they're at an age where it's okay to be home with them, you know. So I don't have teenagers that I think would have been a lot harder to manage. Moreover, we live in a beautiful part of the world. We're very fortunate, you know, we have a little garden outside, so it's nice to be able to. So during the intense lockdown from March to, let's say, May, we were lucky. We had access to food, we had access to water, we had access to electricity. And you got to think of the things in that way, because I have traveled to Central Africa and to less fortunate parts of the world. And I think in times of a pandemic, you have to think as democratically as possible. And we're very fortunate just to have these basic things that, you know, most days we take for granted. So I think it was a great time for introspection, to reset our core values and how lucky we are just to be safe. And then my clinic, despite being shut down, of course, was very difficult from a financial perspective. But I've been weathering storms for 20 years, and I know that panic is never a good thing. And unlike most businesses that fail, when they fail, you know, they're by themselves. In this scenario, we're all together, you know, so it's a collective spirit. I think it was very important for people to understand that you weren't by yourself during this. And because we had invested heavily in safety measures, and we've always been considered a very safe, very clean practice. During the COVID, a lot of people sought us for emergency dental care because most clinics had shut down. And due to the size of our practice, because we're not a huge hospital with only 7 chairs, and the levels of protection we put into place, we were highly sought for medical emergencies. So we were active almost every single day with the highest degrees of safety. And now, you know, it's open. We're back to normal. We've got a morning team and an afternoon team that never meets. And, you know, just business as usual, just with extra safety measures.
Absolutely. And that's great. That's great that you were able to be a part of the health process during that crisis. And what do you see after this? Like, what do you see coming after, when we, as you said, we're back to kind of normal? What do you think we're going, and what do you think the world actually needs?
Big question. I don't think anybody knows.
Of course.
I think more than ever, we've just got to be grateful to get past, the next month. And I think that, everything's being politicized. I mean, right now they've just taken Portugal off the safe travel list, which is ridiculous. And many, many, many businesses are going to suffer the consequences of a political decision. That's not even a scientific decision. And, when you've got politicians that are making backroom deals that are not founded on strong scientific principles, it affects the lives of millions of people. Portugal is without a doubt a safe place, just because of the setup of the country. It's not a big country. It's not a packed country. We live by the sea. So, but anyway, to answer your question, I don't think we do know. I think there's going to be a lot of economic repercussions down the line. But like any crisis, it's something that everybody has to go through, and hopefully keep a positive mindset and come out on the other side stronger. I think that the biggest fear I have is for mental health, and not just of adults. There's a lot of suicides happening. There's a lot of divorces happening. There's a lot of domestic abuse on both sides happening. But I fear for the children that aren't having access to a normal environment where they can hug and play and get dirty and just do normal children things. And I think the repercussions of that will only be noticed next generation. We'll probably already have forgotten about COVID when we got a generation of children acting weirdly based on the programming they're receiving now. Bit heavy, but...
I get that. So I wanted to ask you about that, about health, about mental health. You are a health expert in a particular domain, but how do you see and how do you think we should handle things moving forward? And what do you want to bring you specifically to the table? Maybe you have some ideas on how to handle things happening.
Well, I'm because of the nature of my job, I have to be factual. I can't make suggestions, and I'm highly weaponized in terms of diagnostic tools at the clinic. I mean, we use very, very advanced technology so that I don't give opinions anymore. I have a 3D scanning machine that I can see everything inside the bone. Now, I'm not giving an opinion, I'm giving facts. And I think a lot of doctors, they give opinion and then they wait for the facts to come in. I'm very lucky because, so that's changed my brain and the way that I diagnose complex issues.
You're ahead of the curve, absolutely.
So having said that, I think a lot of people are going to suffer. I don't think there's anything we can do about that. And if we start thinking that life is fair, I think this is a big problem. We've gone through the last decades in probably what is the best period in our human history. Yes, there's a lot of bad things happening, but it's the best time in human history to live. And we can't forget that there's 7 billion people. And 1 billion of those don't have access to potable water every single day. 2 billion don't have access to basic sanitation. 3 billion have probably never caught an airplane. And then, as it starts going up to the top of the apex there, it's like, who are we talking about? How big do you want that spectrum to be? It's like famine is still a real thing. War is still killing people. There's still, extreme jihadism going on. There's political turmoil and unrest now in the US. It's a very unstable time. And COVID, I don't know if that's the biggest problem. Because if you look at the statistics, not even 600,000 people have died so far as a result of, and direct or indirect, because they say you died with COVID, not from COVID.
Exactly.
So we need to be very, very specific. It's a real illness. People do get it, and people do die as a result of other ailments. So you have to be sick. Previously, it's not, if you're super healthy, it's very, very rare that you'll die from this disease, which then begs the bigger question, how much should we worry about the sick and the ailing, and how much should we destroy the global economy and ruin people's mental health as a result of this incredible lockdown? I mean, businesses are going to fail. It's like, is the cure worse than the disease? So I think only in hindsight will we be able, and then everybody, all governments would have to be on the same page to come through this, but they're not.
Of course.
They never have been. So, you know, you can't have two surgeons operating the same brain at the same time with different technologies and different principles. Do you understand? You can't, something's going to go wrong. Sooner or later, somebody has to be in charge. And right now, who's in charge? No one's in charge. You know, the World Health Organization has obviously got some political strings happening. I mean, we've seen that happen. I don't get political about things, but there's some really weird things happening there. And, you know, America is going through its political turmoil. Europe is having some big issues because it seemed to have expanded so big. And then now there's nobody in charge, which actually means social media is probably in charge, the voice of the masses. And if you've got robots and AI-driven, you know, robots pumping out fake news and whatever, it creates hysteria. So I think more than ever, you remember Yasin, what was my grounding color? I said green. We've really got to go back to basics. We've got to stop probably worrying so much about the rest of the world and start worrying about ourselves, where we're going to get our next meal from, how we can protect ourselves, our community, without looking to the governments. And the only way you can do that is with love. Actually, it's a basic instinct to be generous, kind, and to take care of your neighbor. You know, if you start thinking in times of turmoil, how am I going to take care of my neighbor and another human being 20,000 miles away? That's not really going to work. So I really think that we have to go back to basics. I think this excessive political correctness also is it's molding people's brains, because in times of war, this is a pandemic as a war, you protect your own tribe. You can't protect your own tribe and be nice to people 20,000 miles away at the same time. So I think it's almost like we have to do a Control-Alt-Delete or reset and just forget about everybody else for 1 second and just take care of ourselves, our families. And I think inherently, without offending other people, of course, you know, but if you just go back to basics, and I don't think the politicians have all the answers right now. There's too many voices out there. And I go back to the analogy of multiple surgeons with different principles at the same time operating. Something's going to go wrong. So it's a scary time, Lucas. It is a scary time, because there's no real voice of reason out there. So
Miguel, you talked a lot about going back to basics. And so I want to close with one last question regarding values, because when you say going back to basics, caring for each other and stuff like that, I think maybe, do you think this could create new values for our society and then change the way humans interact, businesses interact, brand interacts with customers?
I think that's a great question. And I thought about this a while back. You know, you used to have your political refugees, then you had your asylum seekers. It's happening a lot now. If it's legitimate for a person with no wealth trying to escape a war-ravaged country, regardless of how that began, you know, now they're tearing down statues in Belgium because King Leopold 300 years ago, 200 years ago. Of course it was wrong, but you have to use a sentence like we say in medicine, with the best of the knowledge at that time. That's how people were thinking. Have we evolved? Of course we've evolved. That's what civilization is part of. But if you keep on blaming everybody for the past, you can't get on with your future. You can't. That anger will never let you go. Now, yes, some things have to be fixed. Some things have to be amended. But I think that right now, by the same token, people that have worked hard all their lives and paid their taxes and have done an amazing job at creating a healthy ecosystem, they also don't want that to be ruined by this, you know, equalitarian thing that everybody's the same. So I think that what's going to happen is you're going to have, people are going to go back to community living. I'm talking down the line. For, let's say, between the 80s and now, this concept of globalization. Everybody's the same. Let's all have the same thing. Everybody wants a washing machine. Everybody wants a dishwasher. Everybody wants a refrigerator. Right now, 2 billion people don't have that. Do you know how much mining has to be extracted from the Earth's core to build them those? And that's going to happen. And that pollution is going to happen while other countries are now trying to go completely electric. So again, 2 brain surgeons at the same time operating the same problem. And I just think that we have to stop trying to solve the entire planet's problems and just solve our local problems at a local level, at a community level, and just try and not infringe on other people's problems. I don't know if it's possible, but I've stopped trying to solve the world's problems in my own head and heart. And I just want my family to be safe, my community to be safe, just trying to do a good job, pay my taxes, and get on with things. And hopefully things will balance out down the line.
Absolutely. I hope that too. And well, Miguel, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time, sharing the vision. It's been a pleasure for me to have this chat with you.
Lucas, you too. And thank you. And you know what, again, I really think that we didn't plan this color combination.
Oh, we didn't.
All right. Take care, Lucas. Thank you so much for your excellent work. We're big fans of mycoocoon, and really, really good. And, you know, if more companies had the same mindset as you guys, I think the world would be a better place. Thank you.